sorry I can't be here for review, but I've provided a little review that you'll watch in order to give you an overview of what's on the test tomorrow. It's linked on my calendar, so you can go back and watch it several times if you want to. You can also work the Kahoots and the quizzes that I have linked to my calendar page in order to help you review. I would also go look over the problems you worked on sex-linked inheritance, codominance, and incomplete dominance. If you have not finished your biotechnology assignments, you should use this time to do so because you will be able to use those assignments tomorrow on the 15 questions or so that come from biotechnology. So as always, if you have any questions, just email me, or I will probably do an Instagram review this evening. Okay, be good for Miss Manso. One of the patterns we talked about was incomplete dominance, in which the parents have offspring that have a phenotype that is a blend of their traits. In this example, you can see that the red flower is crossed with a white flower, and you get the heterozygous condition in the offspring. In this case, the heterozygous condition or genotype produces a unique blended phenotype. There are 4 phenotypes for blood type. A and B are codominant in that if there's an A and a B together showing up, then that is when you will have AB type blood. Type O is recessive to A and B. Because there are 3 choices for the alleles for blood, meaning you could get an A, you could get a B, or you could get an O. This also makes ABO blood type a type of multiple allele inheritance. Always remember, you only get to inherit 2 out of the 3 alleles. Although there are only 4 phenotypes for blood type, there's several allele combinations that you can inherit from your mom or dad. If you have O blood, O is recessive, so your alleles must be an O and an O. A and B are codominant. A and B are both dominant. So if you have AB blood, your alleles must be A and B. If you have type B blood, you can either be homozygous for B blood, or you can have B covering up O because you got O blood maybe from one of your parents. If you have A blood, it's the same as B. You can be homozygous for O, or you can have an A covering up an O allele. And every time fertilization occurs, there is a 50% chance of that child being a boy or a girl. The XY chromosome means it will be a male, and the XX chromosome means it will be a female. When we're talking about sex-linked inheritance, we work the problems with the X and Y chromosomes, and then we use the superscript, the little floating letters, to indicate whether or not the individual has the trait. The females will tend to be the carriers of these diseases, and the male offspring will be the ones that inherit the disorders. Most of these disorders are recessive in nature. We also talked about meiosis and how meiosis is used in the body to make gametes. In meiosis, one cell, we start with one germ cell, and we end up with 4 gametes. These 4 gametes are genetically different, as well as have half the number of chromosomes as the germ cell that they began with. This leads to genetic variation in sexual reproduction. A couple of important things about meiosis to point out is that in prophase 1, you can see the mixing of chromosomes. This is called crossing over and doesn't lead to genetic mutation, but instead leads to genetic variation among our offspring. In anaphase 1, homologous chromosomes are pulled to opposite poles, thus allowing a separation that will then be able to produce these gametes at the end of meiosis 2. There are 2 cycles of division in meiosis, so you go through PMAT once and then PMAT twice in order to produce the 4 gametes. Again, crossing over happens during prophase 1. We also looked at tools to help us evaluate chromosomes and genetics. One tool was called a karyotype, in which we look at pictures of an individual's chromosomes in order to evaluate a disorder. Karyotypes can also tell us the gender of an individual. The chromosomes are numbered in pairs from numbers 1 through number 22, and those are called our autosomes. They have all the traits on them associated with traits that are not going to be associated with our gender. Then you have the last set, which does tell you your gender and carries traits associated with being a boy or a girl. In this case, we see 2 X chromosomes indicating this is a female. We also see an arrow pointing to number 21, showing us that here at 21, instead of 2, we have 3 chromosomes, which is called a trisomy. We would call this trisomy 21 or Down syndrome. We looked at pedigrees that allow us to evaluate the passing of disorders throughout generations. This pedigree shows us 1, 2, 3 generations in a family and shows us the passing of a recessive trait. We know this is recessive because there's only 2 out of the shapes that are shaded. A shaded shape means the person has the trait or disorder. The square indicates it is a male. So in this case, this is most likely a sex-linked trait because males are the only ones affected. To read this pedigree, we can see that number 1 and 2 here have offspring. Their offspring are connected by this line, so they have a daughter, a son, and a daughter. All of these offspring also have children with someone else, indicated by the offspring that are connected to the line that's between them. So that's your test review. It's a little longer than I expected, but if you have questions, you know how to get in touch with me. Be sure to study the quizzes links that we have on our websites, as well as the Kahoot that's provided. Those will really be good study aids, and go back over the problems that you worked on genetics.